I don't know what we're going to make this background. I mean, we could do something like oceany.
That would be funny.
Ocean.
Right. How about like we're sitting in like the most luxurious like office? We'll see.
All right, wait, what about like a jungle?
Okay.
You know what? Like, I think maybe we should just let Patrick decide.
Sure. He's our guy.
Patrick, you figure out something dope to put on this green screen. What's up, everybody? This is the Pure World Podcast, and today I am with Pure World's very own Robby Peirce. Robby, how you doing?
Doing good today. It's awesome to be here. I've been on one podcast before, so if you guys saw episode 1, you might be familiar with me. If not, glad to be here.
So, Rob, what is your role with Pure World? Like, what's your history with Pure World?
It's just my role is like ever changing. I think. I guess my history is, that first trip we took to Maine in 2017 after I graduated high school. You had been out of high school running the brand for a few, but my friend Ahaja, he hit me up and he's like, yo, you want to go to Maine on a trip? I went up. You guys were taking photos of backpacks. I had never seen these backpacks before, and sort of the rest was history. I think after that, we came back and, maybe did a few more adventures, and then probably like a year later landed upon like a formal role maybe. I'm not sure what the timeline was exactly, but throughout the years, I've done like shipping and fulfillment, a ton of marketing, a ton of social media management, and really just like kind of a lot of loose end things. And it's been so fun.
What do you remember from when we were just starting the brand, like that first summer and afterwards?
Dude, I like really just a lot of like soulful, like pure adventures. Like we were doing a lot more of that stuff with a lot of hometown people instead of like influencers and models. And so it kind of had this like hometown feel to it at the time. And that's certainly changed because now it's like an international brand. But that's what I remember is like kind of meeting up with like a lot of people we saw from high school and kind of catching up with them through these adventures, and also meeting new people. Like on that first trip in Maine, I met your friend Nick and a lot of his friends, and that was just like something I hadn't done a lot back then, like meeting new people and going to new states and things like that. So it was such a like opening experience and something that we've done together a lot and that I've done myself since then,
Definitely. Yeah. I definitely remember, we would always coin them like Pure World Adventures.
Right.
And we'd go out on these adventures with like a camera. I remember I had bought my first camera. It was the Canon Rebel T6i. It was about $600, and I got all of the use out of that camera that it could possibly provide. I got my money's worth for sure. Those are some OG photos, and I think that was the last period of time with our old bag manufacturer, and so right. at that time, we would receive like a package of 100 bags, and they'd all be different styles, and it would be a mix match, and everybody really would feel uniquely attached to their style because they would go to what we would call, like, I remember we did one selling event called the Grill and Chill Bag Showcase.
Right.
And people would go and they would, look at a table full of 30 to 50 different designs, and then they would personally pick the one they wanted. And then we would take that bag and we'd turn around and we'd get the iron out and iron the patch right onto the bag. It was a very personal experience. And a lot of those people who still have those bags are our earliest supporters. And if you do have one of those OG first generation Pure World bags, then send us a DM, and if you ship that bag back to us, we will replace it with a brand new Pure World bag.
Absolutely. And the quality on these new bags is just, we got to face it. It's a lot better. Back then, perhaps we knew what we were doing, but the quality of the bags we were getting were much lower. They're certainly like an artifact now. Like those are so old. Like it's probably going back like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Those people who do have those OG bags, hit us up and yeah, we're going to hook you up with something because they are definitely our earliest supporters.
Right.
That was like the first summer. And then we continued to grow the brand with just going out on these adventures. You know, like we would go to New York City.
Right. New York City. I think that was like New York City and Maine were the two places that we would frequent a lot.
New York City and Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
That was like our annual route. We
Right.
would like that was classic.
And that was a lot of fun. And to think like, you know, where the brand's gone now, like that's what we were doing, you know, 5 to 6 years ago, going to Portland, Maine, you know, kind of staying in that New England area. And to think back in 2020, you know, Pure World took a trip to Nepal, like literally international trips. You know, we've gone throughout the whole United States, and it's really cool to see where the brand's gone and where these backpacks have sort of taken us, which is, you know, the brand motto, where will your bag take you?
Right. I think it brings me to this whole concept of like running a guided trip.
Right.
Because I have friends who run guided trips to like all these really incredible places throughout the world. And that's what we essentially started the business by doing. We would coordinate with a group of, you know, 6 to 8 people, and we would all pool our money together to get an Airbnb and possibly rent a car. And then we'd go out on an adventure. And so that's what we were doing way back in the day. I wonder what it would look like if we started doing that today.
Dude, that's a good point. I kind of totally forgot about that. And I even remember like building like a back-end website page on Shopify where people were going and signing up for these trips. And like we kind of invited strangers on them. Like, I don't know if I think a few strangers came sometimes.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think. It's kind of like the Trova trip model, you know, that a lot of influencers are doing nowadays, you know, because they have the platform to do it. But we were doing it kind of like on a hometown level back in 2018.
And if you think about it, economically, travel economics 101,
right.
Pooling your money and resources together will give you a better outcome generally, as long as everybody can get on the same like perspective on like where they want to go and what they want to do. You would want to have a trip leader, someone who's like kind of calling the end of day shots. And then the other challenge with coordinating travel with a group of people is just like the organization and the communication and these people don't want to do this thing and they want to eat breakfast at 11 a.m. whereas the other half of the group wants to get up and out of there by 8 a.m. So there are those challenges, but if you do pool your resources together, you can get a nicer Airbnb, you can rent a car, you can hire a tour guide, a personal tour guide. In Nepal, if you're hiring a Sherpa, it's cheaper for you to have more people. It's less expensive per person when there's a group of 8.
Absolutely, yeah. And, you know, with that being said, I think my one piece of advice for that, if you're traveling in a group, is just to be flexible, you know, because you don't want to be the one person kind of holding everything back. And if you go in with that flexible mindset, I think that'll help you out a lot.
Yeah. And with group travel, I think you have to remember that it is group travel. So you're not only doing it to see the sights, but you're doing it to like have those experiences with one another and build those relationships. And I know some of my most fond memories are not the places I've seen, but like the relationships I've built while on those adventures.
And just the experiences along the way and, you know, the friendships you can make. And, you know, it's a great thing. Travel brings people together. Absolutely. Yeah. And so I guess that's one thing, you know, we should talk about is travel and, you know, where you've been and where I've been and, you know, maybe the Nepal trip. Like that was a huge one. I can't believe that happened.
The Nepal trip was insane. I can't believe it happened either.
Right.
It was probably not supposed to happen like that. Like it was very loosely tied together, to be honest. And to put it into perspective, when I had gotten off the plane in Kathmandu, I did not know where I was going to be sleeping that first night. I had been told that I'd have a place to sleep but I had never even met the person who was telling me that. And I didn't even know what they had in mind. There was talk of me staying at their friend's hotel. There was all of this concern of, would I have to quarantine? And he ended up just inviting me into his home. And like the first day, we actually celebrated like a festival with his family. And it was just totally unexpected, but the best case scenario, I'd say. And so that was crazy coming into it.
That is crazy.
And
then for the average person, that would be like probably an uncomfortable situation. At the least,
completely uncomfortable.
What do you think prepared you for that moment, like for that uncertainty?
Definitely some of my my travel abroad experiences when I was like a student.
Right.
And in part, I was definitely taught to travel by my dad. And we had gone on 2 backpacking trips before I graduated college. One in France and then one in Japan. And on those trips, we did not even have cell service. And we actually used paper maps.
That's
like, believe it or not. And we would have, our train tickets planned, and we would go and we'd have to get to the train station, and we'd be taking taxis. And a lot of the times, we didn't speak the language. And so it was very just like, go with your gut, be smart, be aware of your surroundings.
Sure. Yeah.
And have a plan, somewhat of a plan.
Right. So in 2022, backpacking can mean a lot to different people, but you guys were doing the real backpacking through Europe and things like that.
Yeah, I would say so. I think I remember going into, in Japan, I remember going into a 7-Eleven to get Wi-Fi so I could download my Google map of Japan.
That's classic.
And then once you have a Google map that's downloaded offline, then you can use the map, which is like, that's the most valuable thing. And so that's a piece of technology that I guess classic backpackers never had, but that's a tool that if you learn how to use a map,
absolutely,
it prepares you. And I think the other thing that I don't know what prepared me for this Nepal trip most, but it was really just having gut feeling of trust.
Sure.
And I was going to stay with our manufacturer, and so it was mutually beneficial for us, for it to be a good experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I knew that, I had been working with him for years, so he wasn't going to kidnap me.
Right.
Though he probably could make a lot of money. He could make, like, what could he make more money from? Like kidnapping me or from selling me the backpack? So...
Right.
I'm glad that didn't happen. But it was a little bit sketchy because when I got off the plane, I was, trying to get a ride. And he was really, really helpful in coordinating things. But he was so helpful in coordinating things that he wouldn't disclose all of the details. So he would say, oh, yeah, don't worry. Yeah, we'll have a ride for you at the airport. And I'm like, from who?
Right.
At what time?
Yep.
Where am I going after?
Those are all valid questions.
and it was just like a communication thing, but like in his mind, he was, he had it all together, and I had to just kind of trust.
Right. And
at that point.
And you did, and you made it back, and you had a great trip.
Yeah, for sure.
So one thing I wanted to ask is, you said on the first day there, you guys celebrated a festival. And so in the United States, a festival, I think the meaning of that is less exciting than what it means abroad. I remember going to Greece on my study abroad where I went in 2020, and that festivals were like 7-day long things where people were like partying in the streets and like
good. That's fun.
Like nobody had work and things like that. Like festivals were real. They weren't what they are, in the United States. So what was it like for you in Nepal, your first day going to a festival? What was that?
The festival that we went to, and so it's different than I think probably the festival that you're thinking about. Though I have been to festivals that, you're talking about.
Right.
This festival was very family oriented.
Oh, sure.
And I can't remember the exact details, but part of it was that you would go around to all of your like family members' houses and see them. And so we were at this house and people just kept coming in the door, and they would come and they'd stay for 30 minutes.
Sure.
And then they'd leave.
To the next family member's
and
house?
maybe they were even neighbors. Maybe
Yeah.
they were just friends, you know, like colleagues. And it was just kind of an open door. Go and, you know, say hi to your friends and family.
Right.
And then, they put some red stuff on my like forehead, which was pretty cool.
That is cool.
And then also there was money involved.
Sure. You were giving, or
I was
receiving?
I received some money. Like I don't know the conversion value.
Sure.
I can't remember the amount that I was given. It couldn't have been more than $20.
Okay, right. That's
$20 sounds like a lot. Even.
Yeah.
It could have been just $5, you know?
Sure.
But I remember the kids were super, super excited that they got like $5.
Right. Was it paper currency or mostly coins over in Nepal?
It was both.
Sure.
Though I think the coins are probably worth more money than like you could buy an entire candy bar with one coin.
Right.
Whereas you can't do that in the United States.
Absolutely, yeah.
You'd need 4 coins to buy one candy bar.
Yeah.
I
Maybe
think,
more than that nowadays.
I can't really fully remember. One other thing about that festival though was the food. And so like having like a festival or a celebration, it's really a holiday.
Yeah, right.
It's less of a, I don't know, maybe it was a festival, but it was really like what you would consider a holiday, like a family style holiday. And they had this amazing meal with multiple courses. And I just remember coming into Nepal and being like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Like it was hilarious. It was laughable about how incredible and unexpected the experience on that first day was. You know, they took me, their house was beautiful. It was brand new, newly constructed, and it was so many floors. It had to have been 4 or 5 floors. And I remember them taking me up to like the balcony rooftop, and I was like, this is actually insane.
That's so cool. And so it was in Kathmandu, correct?
Yeah, it was in Kathmandu, and it was a little bit out in the like not in Kathmandu city like center. It was a little bit outside. It was very close to their historic district, like a very, very old part of the city that has old temples.
Okay. So could you even relate it to like a US city, or is it just not really comparable?
In terms of the size, I just don't know the scale. I'd have to look at population numbers.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I think we could do. I think that would be interesting. Let's see what the population of Kathmandu.
I feel like it's got to be considerably big.
It's that doesn't even seem possible. Oh, okay. 1.5 million. Yeah,
that's
1.5 million. For some reason, it says 1.442 million. Thought it was a comma, saying it was 1,000 millions, like a billion. That's got to be wrong.
Yeah.
So it's about 1.5 million.
Okay. Check what New York City is. Give us a comparison.
Yeah, New York City is 8.5 million.
Sure. Okay. Interesting.
So cities in U.S. With 1.5 mil.
I feel like in size it could be comparable. Probably
San
in like
Diego.
San Diego. Okay.
Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah. Dallas or San Diego, I guess.
In relation to size, but in infrastructure, culture, a complete 180, right?
Yeah, definitely a complete 180. More dirt roads for sure.
Yeah.
And more motorbikes.
Absolutely.
Everybody's on motorbikes.
Yeah.
There are probably 5 times more motorbikes than cars on the road. The cars are like tanks. And then it's just a wave of motorbikes surrounding them. And it's just a wave. And this is like 2 times of the day, which is like the, commuting periods. Like I remember going, almost every single night, because we would stay at the workshop and at the factories until it was time to leave. Then everyone would just leave. And everybody in the city was basically leaving to go to their houses, and it was just a wave of traffic. And then you've got the motorbikes that are just weaving in and out of each other.
Did you guys have a car or a motorbike?
Most of the time I was on a motorbike.
Would you drive it, or were you?
No,
on
I was
the
on the
back?
back of a
That's fun.
motorbike.
And so you were trusting, your guy to drive you?
Yeah, exactly. And occasionally, like in the mornings, Bala, who's the brother of Narayan,
Oh, sure.
they were the brothers who own and run the whole, process over there. Bala had a car. And so in the mornings we would go in a car.
I see.
And Bala would leave later than Narayan. So I got to like sleep in a little bit more.
Good.
And so we got the car on the way there, but then oftentimes on the way back, I would be on the back of a motorbike.
Right.
Weaving in and out of traffic. And
so you were staying with our manufacturers. Like, what could you say about like their work ethic and, their style of work and sort of what was that like to you?
They go into the office early and they stay not necessarily late, but they stay until 6 o'clock.
Sure. So,
and it's a full day of work, and they've got an organization over there that's really established, and there's so many moving parts, and there's so many people who are in that organization. It's crazy. It's inspiring to see how Narayan, who started, he's self-made completely. He
so cool.
was working for a company, a manufacturing company, and eventually he just realized that he could do it himself.
Right.
And he started his own.
That's so cool. Yeah. That's exactly the type of, company person I would expect Pure World to be working with, sort of self-made.
Yeah, definitely self-made. Yeah, that's what's really cool about it. And really caring for like the community.
Absolutely.
So lots of they've put on lots of really cool things like meditation sessions.
Wow, okay.
Personal finance.
Interesting.
Lectures and education. They bring in doctors to do like, checkups for their people. They also provide free lunch every day, which that was my favorite part of being there.
Right.
The lunch is pretty good. And
would you guys like eat it together, or was it kind of not like a team thing?
Yeah, so there are multiple locations that are in this organization, right? The bag cut and sew workshop is a different location than where they put the patches on where they like put them into boxes and ship them out. And in each of those locations, I mean, the cut and sew workshop has about 30 people.
Oh, wow.
Whereas the other main office and workshop has like 70 people.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. And so when they make the lunch, they make it in like a kitchen, and there's a whole team of cooks who they're dedicated to making the food every day. And then they put it on plates, and then they go out and they serve all of the people wherever they are.
Right.
And then when you get the food, you kind of sit down and you just eat it.
Right. Sure.
Where you are. And so the teams that are working together will take a moment. And they'll eat it with each other. And so I would eat it I ate it in multiple different places with different people.
And so you mentioned like they would do a lot of meditation there. Is that something that you had done previously to your trip to Nepal, like, practice meditation, or is that something you picked up there, or something that you haven't really experimented with at all?
While I was in school, I was in the not the meditation, but the yoga club.
Awesome. Love that.
And that's like a no-brainer because for free, you would get to go to the nice yoga studio in town. And part of that, like at the end of doing your yoga, there would always be this period of time where you kind of like don't think of anything and you just like kind of rest. And that to me was like what I had known most about meditation. I've had a friend, Rena, once gave me like a meditation session. But other than that, I haven't done it all that much.
Right.
I'm obviously familiar with it. Like going through Thailand and in Nepal, in large part, there's a lot of yoga and meditation in the culture. One thing that I learned about in Nepal was this like silent retreat.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
And it was a Buddhist, I'm pretty sure Buddhist silent retreat, and you go for 10 days and you cannot speak.
I've heard of things like that. That's tough.
To me really fascinated me, and
Right.
that really got me interested in Narayan. Even like found one here in Massachusetts. Like,
Oh,
hey,
sure.
Jack, you could go to a 10-day silent retreat back home.
Cool. That's cool he found that for you.
Yeah, he's really would love for me to become Buddhist.
Right. Is that something that you would attempt maybe? Like not becoming Buddhist, but a 10-day silent retreat. I don't know if I could do that personally.
It really doesn't sound that hard to me.
So no speaking for 10 days, right?
Yeah, no speaking for 10 days. I mean, I guess if you didn't have anyone to speak to, like if you went without knowing anybody.
Right.
I don't know, but of course, like if I haven't gone through it, then what can I even say about it? I don't know if I could speak.
That's
on
pretty
it.
interesting. I think we should give it a shot one day.
Yeah, that would be cool.
10-day silent retreat. And so one thing, we've talked about a lot of good things from Nepal, but of course, when you're traveling, sometimes things don't go right. Sometimes bad things happen. Did you have a time in Nepal where you were like scared or challenged, or what can you speak on for that?
One time, while we were going out to the hemp farm, actually we were coming back from the hemp farm, I was trying to get this drone shot of our van going past a waterfall.
Sure.
And I was out of the car, and this is after a long weekend of traveling and road tripping, and people really wanted to get back. But for me, it was really important that like I got the shots that I came for, because that's what I came all the way across the world for. And so I got out of the car and I got the drone up, and they drove by, and then right after they went over this stream, they were waiting at the corner of a big bend for me to get back in the car.
Right.
And these are very narrow dirt roads, and giant trucks barrel down these roads.
Oh boy.
And you could hear a giant truck coming from the other direction while our van was parked, on the other side of the bend. Like there was going to be a collision. So they start honking. My drone is still in the air at the moment, and so I have to grab it out of the air. It cuts my hand. I jump into the car, and they're honking back and forth to let this other giant oncoming truck know. And the road was just almost too narrow.
Oh my goodness.
But the big truck squeezed by. And
That's
so
crazy.
Everybody in the car was kind of like, all right,
we're going home.
No more drone.
That's frightening. And,
I felt really bad. But
yeah. Hey, at least you guys made it out. I swear those like big truck drivers might be the most talented people in the world. I've seen crazy footage of them like doing things like that.
Yeah, they're just something for sure.
Yeah.
So the roads in Nepal are very narrow, and on one side there is a cliff.
Right.
Where like if you fall, you're done for.
Sure.
And they just barrel down it, and it's really crazy.
Yeah, with no second thoughts. That's just their job. And when I see things like that, it makes me feel funny for like, my job is social media stuff, but these guys' job is to like transport things across the world and do incredible things. It's like that's on a different level right there.
Totally.
And so there's obviously, you were in Nepal for like 30 days. Do you think that's certainly stuff we couldn't tell in one podcast episode. Do you think that you're ever going to release like a longer form video about Nepal and Pure World experience over there?
Yeah, I would really love to, except my hard drive got corrupted.
No, it didn't.
Yeah. Like
totally? Like it's gone?
It's not entirely gone, but it is, some of it is not going to be retrievable. And I know exactly what I don't have, and it's really sad. But we still do have a lot of really good stuff that will make it out into the world. Yeah, we're definitely going to put something together. But I think more than anything, we're going to have to go back.
That was going to be my next question. Is Pure World ever going to go back to Nepal?
For sure.
Because I remember, you went in 2020, correct?
Yeah.
And so I think 6 months before you went, we were going to go together.
Right.
I had like my
You had a plane ticket.
I had like a plane ticket, and like the other thing I needed,
visa.
like the visa. And at the time, I was in school. I was in college. I was doing like my second or third to last semester. So that would have been a challenge. And then I think COVID was like going crazy. And also on top of that, I think they were experiencing some wildfires at the time. And there were so many restrictions. I think we ended up pulling the plug on that trip.
From the wildfires to the global pandemic, it was definitely a push to go to Nepal.
Right. I think my family would have been like upset with my decision.
Yeah, like
even though we would have been fine probably.
Yeah. We probably would have been fine. But also going out to the hemp farms, I mean, where do you think those fires are happening? Way out in the in the countryside. So I think definitely there will be more time in Nepal. And like I was saying earlier in the podcast, you can travel more efficiently in groups. And so I would like to go back to Nepal with a group of people.
Absolutely. What do you think is the good number for that?
Probably no more than 10. I think 8 would be a great amount.
So if you're listening to this podcast, you'll see a sign up form to go to Nepal with us. I'm just kidding. This, well, maybe.
Someday there will be. Yeah, we might open it to public. Who knows?
Right.
Cool. What else you got for us? We should probably start wrapping this thing up pretty soon.
Yeah, we've got things to do today and people to see. I guess let's get off of the Nepal topic just for one moment. We've got probably a few more questions left. You've been the Pure World CEO for 5-6 years now, right?
Yeah.
If you couldn't do entrepreneurship and you could do, I guess, anything else in the world besides entrepreneurship, what do you think you'd be doing today, the last few years, the next few years? What would that look like?
If I could not do entrepreneurship whatsoever.
Whatsoever.
So my first instinct would be to go to engineering.
Okay.
However, it would be too easy to get back into entrepreneurship because the second I invent something and I engineer something, I'd be starting a business right around it.
Right.
So if it has nothing to do with entrepreneurship, I would become a lawyer.
Okay.
And then eventually I would love to become a judge.
A judge. Interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. I think in terms of being a lawyer, what's awesome is being able to like see the logic and then articulate the logic and like argue to defend somebody.
Sure. Yeah, I can get behind that.
And like help somebody.
Yeah.
But then what's really amazing about the judge is like being able to see the balance and like the fairness of an outcome.
Yeah.
And to be able to look at a situation and say, okay, this would be a fair outcome.
Sure.
This is how like both parties get what they deserve.
I see. Yeah. Interesting. I love that. And so I'll hit you with one more double-sided question. So obviously you're staying busy as the Pure World CEO, you know. What do you think, what's your biggest goal for Pure World for 2023? You know, we're almost reaching that time. And what's your biggest like personal goal outside of Pure World for 2023?
Okay, so the goal of Pure World for 2023 is to really start facilitating the adventure mindset.
Sure. Okay.
We've got some really cool things, and I don't want to disclose them yet just because who knows how they will end up playing out. But basically, the goal is to allow Pure World to become more of a part of your everyday adventures.
Right.
And we're thinking about how we can help people adventure better.
Okay, I love that.
That's the goal for 2023 for Pure World.
That's well said.
For me on a personal level, my goal for the next year is to work a lot more with the music industry.
Dope.
And I definitely want to connect more with artists. And I think that there's a lot of crossovers of how Pure World can integrate with music because you know, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of really, really awesome artists out there. And so I just personally want to build more relationships with artists that I believe in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. And I think there's obviously a lot of like through the internet, you can meet so many artists, but there's also a lot of artists in our local area you know, that are doing their thing, grinding and really trying to make it
Artists are entrepreneurs.
Right. Absolutely.
For sure. Or they have to be.
You have to be.
You know, and if they aren't, then it's going to be difficult.
It's going to be tough to
make
really do that thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for listening or watching, whatever you're doing. I'm Jack.
And I'm Rob.
And if you want to support the Pure World podcast, then you can shop for sustainably sourced adventure gear at pureworldshop.com. And yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Till next time, my friends. Thank you.
Bye.